What are we saying? Okay, awesome. So this entire video is going to be me going over why the first step of knee training is blood flow and why your knees need blood flow, not ice. So you've probably heard of like Rice protocol, and this Rice method was made in 1978 through Dr. Gabe I think it's Merkin. I think that's probably how you pronounce it. And he published this in his sports medicine book. And this pretty much then got distributed everywhere. I personally learned rice when I was younger, with my knee injury to help me deal with that. In PE, I remember in GCSE PE when I was a kid, it taught, rest, ice, elevation, compression. But this isn't, we'll go through it now, but this isn't actually the best method to help us heal, especially starting off like we're told to, okay, as soon as you have a tissue injury, rest it, ice it, elevate it, compress it. And the elevation and the compression don't have too much evidence against it, but it doesn't have too much evidence with it either. The only like kind of compression thing that I've found that really helps is like the knee flossing. Other than that, I'll show you like kind of the best methods. But yeah, just to preface this, like the guy actually made Rice, came out years later and like recanted it, took away his original position on the protocol. So like 30 years after, he came out and said, nah, what I said was actually not true. So amazing. You just, I mean, I can't harp on the guy, but you just set so many injuries to a worse position for 30 years and then just like, nah, actually it doesn't work. Sorry about that. But yeah, fair enough. As long as he's making the best possible announcements and making sure that it's known that it doesn't work, not much more you can do. Everyone makes mistakes. So yeah, when you have tissue trauma, when you have tissue damage, the first physiological events that actually occur are inflammation, and then once you pass through that, you then go to repair, and then once you pass through that, you then go to remodel. So unless you go through this inflammation phase, which ice is kind of trying to mitigate, you cannot get to the repair phase. And then if you don't go to the repair phase, you then can't go to the remodel phase. So if you're constantly trying to ice and stop this, which we'll go into right now, then you're never going to be able to get to the repair phase. So yeah, like something I want to preface as well is that it's saying that less pain immediately doesn't equate to no pain in the long term. So some examples of this are icing. So if you ice your knee and it takes away the pain, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing good for it. It's more numbing it. And again, for example, with something like ibuprofen or paracetamol, just because you numb a pain doesn't mean it's not there. So if you put someone to sleep in surgery, it doesn't mean that you're not still cutting open their knee. Like, if they're awake, they'd feel the pain loads, but because they're asleep, it doesn't actually matter. So just saying that, okay, it's got less pain doesn't mean it's necessarily better. Amazing. So, like I say, if you don't pass on through the inflammation phase, you're not able to get to the repair phase. So this actually means that ice is delaying the healing of tissue. So it needs to go through that whole process to actually heal. So if it can't go through that first one, then we're actually delaying it. Like ice is used to reduce inflammation. That's what they say. Oh yeah, we'll reduce inflammation because inflammation is bad. Well, is it bad? Or is it just the process that the tissues go under and our body is very, very capable given from God? So I would definitely argue that we are not smarter than our body that's been created to produce life, to heal ourselves. So I definitely think that the inflammation is probably there for a reason, for our body to do its best. And not only that, it's actually been shown recently in this kind of study and other studies that icing can actually cause more tissue damage than doing good. This because like applying the ice reduces the blood vessels, so it narrows it. It's like vasodilation. It actually reduces, narrows the blood vessels. So it also makes it so that there's less inflammation. And like I say, if you don't pass through that inflammation phase, there's not as much healing. Then the blood vessels actually remain narrowed after, so even for the period of time when the ice isn't on it, the tissues are going to be in a low oxygen state for prolonged periods of time, leading to more tissue and potential nerve damage. So because it doesn't have that oxygen going to it, because it doesn't have the inflammation, because it doesn't have these things, it becomes kind of dead. Like if you leave something, if you're not growing, you're dying. There's a quote by Bob Proctor, but if it's not getting better, then it's getting worse. Like that is how it is. So yeah, if you want to read more up on this, you can have a look at this study, but it's not looking good for the old ice method, I'll tell you that. Then, let's go on to the rest method. Let me reduce my face for a little, get my ugly face out of the way. Let's have a look at what's going on here. So, rest is not the ice either. We actually need movement to go through the tissue healing process. And having no movement means that there's no need for the muscles. So our muscles grow and our muscles stay the same size based on a stimulus we give it. If I'm benching 100 kilos, my muscles need to be the size that they need to be able to bench 100 kilos. So if we're benching 0 kilos, if we're not benching at all, my chest will just shrink because there's no need for the muscles. And if there's there's no need for the muscle size decreases. And then if the muscle size decreases, it's been shown to increase more pain. This was me after my knee surgery, probably like a year or two after, like it was still having major issues because the internals of my knee were killing me. So my muscle size completely shrunk, atrophied, and therefore it led to more pain. Like it's shown so many bad results come out of both uneven muscles, having less muscles, and all good correlations in terms of knee health come from having better muscles. Obviously, having extreme muscle size and also weak tendons and weak ligaments, weak connective tissue is also bad. Like if you look at people who are on like steroids and they just get really, really strong muscles, their tendons, their ligaments and stuff are easier to break, easier to snap because they haven't trained their connective tissue as much and their muscles got oversized for the amount of load their tendons and stuff can handle. But yeah, so a better approach would actually be using movement as medicine. So the body is trying to get heat, fluid to that area. So we need to help it, like especially for tendons, like tendons love heat. And we need to be using this movement in a kind of pain-free range. We don't want to cause any more breakdown because that's then going to go back to the start. So if it's starting to repair and we cause more pain, that will then go back to the inflammation phase. So you're restarting the process over and over again. So yeah, let's use movement as medicine, and the best way to be able to get in some kind of movement without any like pain in the knee is concentric only movements and also isometrics. So the sleds you can use, which is what you're seeing here, the dead mill and the band and knee extension. Basically concentric only movements means you're bypassing the eccentric. So the concentric is the way up. So for example, on a bench press, if I'm pushing the weight up, that's the concentric. If I'm lowering the weight, that's the eccentric. So the sled, for example, only does the uppermost of a bench press. If we bypass that and come back to the start, that's it. Only the concentric again. And the eccentric component has more tissue breakdown. The eccentric component would be the harder portion for it. So if we have something like the sled where we can only do concentric movements, it's going to be much better for having less tissue breakdown. So we can get the blood flow, get the movement pretty much every single day, if not multiple times a day, without having any pain, without having any tissue breakdown. But it's getting that circulation, getting that blood flow, getting the healing to the area. Versions of this can be either the sled, the dead mill, or the band and knee extensions, and then ISOs are actually also amazing as well, especially for tendons. Again, there's not even a concentric or an eccentric in ISOs. It's just holding one motion, so you're not putting it through tons and tons of stress, and this kind of stuff can be done pretty much every day. So yeah, I'm just going to tell you a bit about my quad tendon story and like how I injured it and then how I started to re-heal it after I learned all the ATG stuff. So my quad tendon was after all of my other injuries, so I fixed most of them, and then my quad tendon came because I was playing about with some of the longer range movements in ATG trying to show off. So I put too much load, too much tension through my quad tendon, and then this ended up leading to it being really, really painful and inflamed. I remember not even being able to do a sled without the pain. So what I'd done to start with, and I'll show you the protocol here, get my face out of the way again. I started with band and knee extensions 3 to 4 times a day, so I couldn't do the sled. Like it was too painful for me. I tried to, but I couldn't do it. It was too much weight, too much load, and like I was really messed up to start with because I'd just done it. So what I did is these band and knee extensions, just got a light band, put it around my legs, and we're kind of flexing through the quad. So again, it's pulling you down into the eccentric, so it's bypassing that eccentric. We're just getting loads and loads of blood flow, loads of quad work. So I done this about 3 to 4 times a day, and I also done heat packs before it. So like I say, tendons love heat, and if you can kind of relate it to metal. So if you heat up metal, it's then easier to bend and then keep in that shape without it snapping. But if it was to go into cold, obviously you'd have to be really strong for metal, but you could snap it quicker. It's the same with tendons. If you go in cold to stuff, the tendons are going to snap easier. So yeah, heat packs and then band and knee extensions. I also done hot Epsom salt baths, which are amazing as well, and then ISOs one time a day. And then over time, I just done gradual tissue exposure. So once it was feeling a little bit better and I could get into like the short range stuff, I would start to do step ups, tib calf work, and then from the step ups I'd start then to load into more of a split squat. And again, the quad tendon is more active in deep knee flexion, so getting that kind of work and getting used to that over time is going to be the real benefit if you do have quad tendon issues. And then from the split squat, I then started getting stronger in the VMO squat. But this is where I had to start back. I was able to do like 6-inch step ups with like 100% of my body weight on the bar for step ups before. And then I had to reduce the load because it was too painful and all this. So I just done the same thing that I would do for all my clients. And I actually, after like doing this damage to my quad tendon, I was actually playing football within 2 to 3 months, which from not even being able to do a sled without any pain is pretty cool. And then over time as well, like adding in couch stretch and also getting to a point where I can comfortably reverse Nordic for that real extreme tissue lengthening. So yeah, the moral of the story for today is to make sure that you are not icing your injuries, and we are getting pain-free movement, we're getting blood flow, we're getting work in at the level that our tissue can handle, and increasing that slowly over time. So this is the first stage. If you're coming off a knee injury, if you're coming off a knee surgery, make sure that we can get some kind of movement in to start with. Obviously, don't want to damage anything, but we do want to get movement in. So yeah, I really do hope this was helpful. Just a bit of a shorter one today. If you've got any questions about anything, drop me a comment down below. But yeah, I'm going to be trying to get these kind of YouTube videos out daily. So yeah, I hope you enjoy them. Appreciate you guys.